So, hello everyone. Welcome to another session for GameNet. Today we're gonna talk about having to having different scenes for the clients, no? So, where do we use this? If you think about, like I said before, Stardew Valley or anything that needs to have like a different scene, ayun, we're gonna do that. If you think about it, technically you can have in just one whole scene, the whole map. Parang you're just gonna fake it na paglabas niya, it's just gonna literally just teleport them to another location in your scene. Pwede yun. That can work. Uh, at least that way, everything is just running in the background. No? Pero, yun nga, sometimes it's not really the best thing to do. Everything in just one scene. So maybe you want different scenes to work with. So like if you enter a house, it'll load the scene for the house and specifically just for the house. Um, mga ganun. I think another one that does this is maybe um what is this? Ano yun Animal Crossing maybe? I think Animal Crossing does it. Or something like Animal Crossing where they have a scene that has all the interiors of the house. And then what happens is when they enter from the outside world, quote unquote, when they enter the house, it teleports them in that specific room in that scene, something like that. That can work also. So up to you. Kung ayaw nyo ng multiple scenes for, you know, like for an indoor, we can have it in just one whole scene. But let's think. How are we able to change scenes? That's one. The other challenge is how are we supposed to track the uh, clients, no, or the players when they go from scene to scene? All right, so let's do that. Sorry. Okay. So what we have? Yeah. Right. So first we have to go through the network manager. So this depends on either using the room or just the network manager. So in this case, since we worked on the room, we're gonna use that. So our demo network, no, that's demo network manager, demo network room manager. All right. So here's our demo network room manager. Now, if you've worked with scene manager before, what do you do para you're able to load multiple scenes for the player? Has anyone worked with room scene manager in Unity before? Anyone? Has anyone ever tried loading multiple scenes? None? Ah, okay. Sige. Capstone? Pero di ikaw yung ano, hindi ikaw ikaw naman ano, nag-code nun? Mhm. Mhm, yeah. Mhm, mhm. Yeah. Okay. So you talked about a persistent scene, and trying to move data from one scene to the other. So if you think about it like this, you have persistent scene, you have maybe scene one and scene two. This is scene one, scene two. Okay. So the problem with uh moving data from one scene to the other, usually data is encapsulated just within a scene. It's only here lang. Everything that, if you try to load another scene, nawawala yung data na to. So somehow we have to be able to move from data from one scene to the other. Kaya there's a thing called a persistent scene. This scene will always be here. So what we do is, if you want to move data, all our data should be just here. That needs to be moved should be here in the persistent scene, and we usually use what we call like singleton. I'm not sure if you've done this. No, singleton. Why do we use singleton? Remember, singleton has a static. We should have a public, oops, public static, um, some data type, and then you know variable. We have this with the singleton. You're able to, since it's a static. That means it's like everywhere. Oh no, it's gone. It's only just one instance now. So remember, if you have a static variable, if you change a static variable, it changes for everyone's um copy of this static variable. So if you have a public static int, right? If you change that int to one, everyone's value for that static variable is also one. So we use singleton so that we try to access um this variable, which is always here in the persistent scene. All right. So this is actually not really connected to what we're going to learn about today, but yeah. Anyway, uh, that's why we have persistent scene. But we're gonna kind of need this instead of just public static. We're gonna try to have a persistent scene so that we have our player, our player right here. Why? Why do we need to put them in persistent scene? The client should always know what is happening to other players. We don't want them na each time they change scenes, they have to always somehow load the data of the player. And how will they know that? They would have to go back to our server. They would have to keep going back to the server just to load what the data of the player. Well, we can skip that by using persistent scene. In the persistent scene, player, all the players will always be here, and um, so that when a second player goes in from another scene, this player is still here. The other clients are still here in the persistent scene. They're still there, but they're like hidden. No? So it's always loaded. This is always here. Okay, so how do we do that? Let's go create let's go do first the loading of the scenes. Una, we need to have for additive. Okay, or teach that the additive whatever. I'll show you muna yung room, yung scene manager. Using creative.scene. Oops. Hang up with the scene manager. Scene. Yun again. Scene management. So scene management, we have. Let me just go into one piece. Scene manager. Cut. And there you have create scene, get all scenes, get scenes at build index, whatever, load scene, move game objects to scene, game object to scene. So we have that. And we have unload scene and load scene. And then we have load scene async and unload scene async. So we're going to use this too. Why? The difference of load scene and load scene async, this actually tells you what is happening in the loading. So itong si load scene, you only have like if you want to load a certain index from the scene build index. So where is that? In here is the load scene index 0, 1, 2. So you can work with that. Or what else do you have? You have scene name, scene build index, and then load scene mode. So actually, that's the one important. The load scene mode. Normally, it's in single. So what does it say? Closes all current loaded scene and loads a scene. So that's what the default is this one. Load scene mode dot single. That's the default. That's why if you try to load a scene, if you ever use this, it closes all the scenes and opens a new scene. But if you want to just add a scene, meaning it looks like this. It would look like that. You have multiple scenes currently happening. So parang siyang ganito. But if you just do just a oops. If you just do the load scene lang with single lang, it would look like this. Oops, sorry. It would look like this, and then you're gonna load scene. You're gonna load scene. So parang ganyan. Kung gagawin natin, we have to do additive. And I'll show you why. So we need additive. So we have that one. And then scene manager dot load scene async. Let's put this in a variable async operation. Async operation scene async. What does this have? You have progress, you have is done, you have priority, pero it's usually is done. You have also completed. So how will you use this? Normally, we use this in a I enumerator. Why? Because in I enumerator, we can go if scene async that is not done, we can do yield return null. Meaning, if we start this coroutine, it'll wait. I mean, it'll keep the game running, and then it's always checking. It'll always. Oh wait, sorry. While scene async is not done, it'll do this. So while this is not yet done, it'll just go to the next frame, go to the next frame, go to the next frame. Then when that is done na, maybe you want to do something like um, enable a certain game object's control or enable the player's control or something like that, right? That's async, asynchronous. Alright, so we're gonna use that idea. Let's start off with the load and unloading. Where's our alright? So we have a private enumerator. Uh, Load additive scene, and then string scene name. And here, let's also introduce some variables. Move is in transition. So is in transition is equal to true. And then what I want to check though is this is only for our host. So mode is equal to network manager mode dot client mode. For this, we're gonna do yield. Oh no, not yield. Yeah, tama, yield. Loading scene async is equal to scene manager dot load scene async. Scene name, and then load scene mode dot additive. What is loading scene async? Loading scene async is a variable of network manager in general. If you go to the definition, ayan, it's just here if you try to say static one. If you go find it, it's when you try to change scenes, it uses that. And in this case, we're also going to use it in our end. So load scene async, and then while loading scene async is not equal to null, and um, loading scene async is done. If it's not yet done, yield return null. Go to the next frame, go to the next frame, go to the next frame until it's done. And that's done, you can go network client that is loading scene is equal to false, is in transition is equal to false. And then this is where things change. For since we're using the room, I'll just use on room client change scene changed. If you're not using the room, it will be on client scene change. Sorry. On client scene changed. Ayan. But that's only for ano. That's only for our uh, network manager. But since we're using network room manager, I will use on room client scene changed. This one, we need to using system dot collections. Yeah. Then we also have enumerator unload additive scene string scene name. For this, it is in transition is equal to true, and then if mode is equal to network room, sorry, network manager mode dot client only, yield return scene manager dot unload scene async. So it's gonna wait. It's gonna wait until it has unloaded, and then for here, yield return resources dot unload unused assets. This will unload yung mga assets. And finally, network client not is ano is not pala. Oh no, it is. It's loading scene, script false, is in transition, script false, then on room client scene changed. Okay, so we need those two. Where do we need it? We need it on client scene. Where is that? Is it here? Oh, we need it here. Override on client change scene. So in here, uh, we need this. No, if scene operation, not that one. Yes, if scene operation is equal to load additive, unknown mo that. Unload additive, we do start forwarding unload additive scene, new scene name. And then if scene operation is equal to the additive one, load additive, start coding node additive scene. Okay, so there's our loading of the scenes. That's one. Second, for data to be able to again, remember this, for us to be able to move data, to know where all the players are usually, or all the players are, we need to have the persistent scene, and then we actually need to have all of these scenes loaded in as well, so that the host or the server will always know what's happening everywhere. It needs to have everything loaded, so the server always knows what is happening in every scene. Okay, so how do we do that? We need, let's go put a list of string. This is scene names. Scene names. We need to get all the scenes that we want, which will be up here, in here, no? But remember, this will always, this is, we don't really need all of these to be loaded. We need to load um all the other scenes. Actually, no. Sample scene, room scene, online. Oh, we're missing one more. The persistent scene. Let's do that. Let's go create our persistent scene. Scene persistent scene. Persistent scene. Again. So sample room persistent scene. Persistent scene will always be running. So we need everything else that's after here. So 0, 1 after the third index or index 2. On room start server. It's only called on the server. 4 int I is equal to 2. No, 0, 1, 2, 3. I is less than scene manager dot loaded scene count in build settings I plus plus. We're gonna add them here. Scene names dot add scene manager dot scene get scene. Oh, where is that? Get seen by build index. Hi. Let's see. Get, ah, we need this. Scene manager dot get scene name get scene. Ah, no, 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 sorry, sorry, sorry. Just name. Yeah, I think that's just name. Ah, no, 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 sorry, sorry. Path. Why? Okay, why am I doing this path? We need the path name. We're not actually in here in the changing scenes. They're not just looking for the name, but they're looking for the path name. So path that get file name without extension, and then not scene manager, scene utility, get scene path by build index. Okay, we are getting the file name. And then on room start server, we load all of these scenes when the host starts the game. Where is that? Uh, when the server starts. On room add, on room service, loaded for player. Scene changed. Scene changed. Scene. Here we go. This is called on the server. So how do we know if we are in the game room now? If scene name is equal to game play scene. So if it is on the gameplay scene, the right after the room, no, this is where we want to load all our um scenes. So this one, I'll do I enumerator. I enumerator. Um, server load sub scenes, and then while okay, let's put another boolean here. Bool is sub scene loaded. Ah, no, no. We need data pala. What do we need here? What do I need here? To load every scene. Hold on. Oops. Gameplay. Gameplay scene. Ah, yeah. For each string scene in scene names, you return scene manager dot load scene async, and then a scene, and then load scene async. Oh, let's use the other one. The parameters. Load new load scene parameters. Load scene mode is equal to additive, but local physics mode is equal to local physics mode dot 2D. This is because um, we're using a 2D game. Okay, so for each for each string in the scene name, we're gonna load the the scene, and then sub this sub scene loaded is equal to true. This one false. Okay. Start coding. Server load subsets. Okay. You've loaded the all the scenes. We're handling the change. We're adding and removing the scenes. Uh, we need transition. We need to. What is transition? So the two false. Where is on change scene? Scene change. Not that one. Okay, wala. Let's add that. On override on client scene changed. If not in transition, not is in transition, we call this. Is this it for this? Let me. One more thing in here. This one. Ano, matapon. Where's that boolean? This here. We're gonna do something here. Right now, kasi, this is where we're setting the data for our player, no? So that we can move it to the game. From the room to the game. Oh wait, no. Is this one? No. Room server scene mode. Oh yeah, you're right. This is right. When switching from the room player is replaced with the game player object. Yeah. From the room scene to the gameplay scene. Yeah, tama tama. We need to make this false. Why do we need to make it false? Because we're gonna have to do something. We're gonna have to do some sketchy stuff. Instead of loading directly to the online scene, we're gonna have to create go enter the persistent scene. So, where's our room? Here's our room now. Room scene. From our room scene, normally what our clients do is client. Normally what this does is from the room scene, we move to the gameplay scene. But since we want a persistent scene from the room scene, we go to the persistent scene. All the players are there, and then teleport them to, or quote unquote, teleport them to the scene. Why? Um, it will be different for the host and from the client. From the client's perspective, everyone is still in the persistent scene. In the host perspective, the clients are on the scenes. Why? Again, our client needs to know what is happening to the players. Hence, we need to have them in the persistent scene. And the host, though, everything, all the scenes are loaded. So it's okay that they're not in the persistent scene. So from here, we're going to do, if you check the base, it's returned true, no? It's used here. It normally just this network replace player for connection is how it moves from the room player to the game player. But in our case, we're gonna do something else. We do have the network server that replace player for connection. We still have this. The con, the game player, and then uh player options that keep active. Keep authority. We still do that, but we need to move from the persistent scene the uh to the game scene, the actual game scene. So I enumerator add player to game scene. This is network connection to client on. While subscene. Well, this is no. Well, the subscenes are not yet loaded. Yield return dot. So we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait until all the subscenes are loaded. Then, if they're loaded, remember this one becomes true when everything is loaded. So we're waiting. We're gonna wait. It's gonna just keep going to the next frame, to the next frame until it's loaded. When it's finally loaded, um, this one is just to disable all, to enable all the network identity. Find objects of type network identity for each network. Actually, no, no bother. In all objects. Obj that enable to the true. And then this is gonna be a weird function. Con dot send. So we need to send a message to change the scene. Why? The connection doesn't really have a way to change scene. There's no function for that. Instead, we're gonna have to use messages. In this case, our message will be a new scene. Okay, scene name. Where's our scene name? The first scene to load. So let's add that here. Let's add it here. Scene. I think we put the scene and serialize field. String first scene to load. So we need that here. That is the first scene to load. And then scene operation will be load additive. And then custom handling, true. And then after opening a new scene, we move it. We move the player. Scene manager dot move game object to scene. This will be con dot identity dot game object. And then what's the scene? Scene manager dot get scene by path. Okay, dami nangyari, no? Oh, di ba tayo tapos? Start, coroutine, add, player to game scene. Okay, so a lot of things happened. Let's go back. First, we created the load and unloading of scenes. It's a start coroutine where we just load it, we wait for it until it's loaded. When it's finally loaded, we just set the network client is loading scene false, meaning it has finally loaded. Is in transition is false. We need this because of this. just in case that it hasn't loaded yet. So we put it to false. And then on room client scene change. This one, technically this is actually just empty. Just in case lang, no. You need something to happen. And we call this. Same thing here. If for the client only, you unload the scene, unload the unused assets, and then on room client scene change. Okay. And then for the server, we have this scene.add. We're trying to get all the scene names. Why? So that on the gameplay scene, when the player starts the game na, we load all those scenes. Server loads up scene. We all load all the scenes. And then, in order for us to have that persistent scene, we have this code, uh, this part here, add player to game scene. So what's going to happen is the first scene to load is actually the persistent. Sorry. The players will be loaded into the persistent scene, and then this first scene to load is the actual game. So that's what's happening here. We are just moving them from the persistent scene into the um, first scene to load. We do that for our uh, clients. So I'll show you later. See, move game object to scene. Okay. Uh, Before we move on, do we have any questions or clarification about this part? This one on client change scene, this is actually called when we have this code con.send. If you see, it has scene name, scene operation, and custom handling. This is actually going through here. So if you try to check the code, and then find all objects, it's calling this one internal. Who's calling this internal? On client scene internal, who's calling this one? Register handler. Meaning, it's registering to scene my message. If a scene message is sent, it'll call on client scene internal, which is client change scene, and then on client change scene, and then that's why we have that. Okay? So wala pa tayo sa changing from scene to scene. Pero I'll show you what this all looks like na. So in here, we have the persistent scene. Make sure the 3 is here. I think is our offline scene, no? This is the room scene. This is the persistent scene that offline room where we want them to go, and then the actual game. So we can have more scenes here. I'll Let's do that. Let's put one more scene here. Uh, this is online scene 2. What makes this different? Let's maybe change the color of the floor into uh, that. And we can maybe also add in a. Oh, we don't have sprites here nga pala, no? Asset, create. Don't have sprites. Oh, wait, 2D. No, we don't. Sprite. Right, this is the old. This is the new one nga pala. Oh well, let's just go add a new object wall. with a sprite render it. This is a box collider and rigid body 2D. Rigid body 2D. Oh, sorry, that was a 2D. Static, and then box collider 2D. Anyway, just to have a wall. And then, well, we're not gonna see that pa naman. Anyway, this is online scene 2. This is in scene. Then in our room scene, oh nope, in our sample scene where the network manager is, instead of gameplay scene to be online scene, it will be our persistent scene. And then the first scene to load is online scene. Gameplay one. Uh-huh. Okay, sige. Let's try that out. Spiral sync. Mm, hello. Okay. Where are we at? Put this down here. Host, join, ready, start. Right. What happened here? Yep. Audio listener, audio listener. Hold on. Let me just fix that one. It's about having multiple. Ah, right. Before that, main camera. For now, audio listener off. Everything needs to have a network identity because of this. Network identity. Even here, this needs to have a network identity. Uh, uh, Main camera, off mo natin yung audio listener. Okay, let's do that again. Ah, before that, I need to add something here. Because of Unreal today. Because of Unity, medyo weird yung pag-change ng when you do additive. Uh, they don't, Unity doesn't know kasi kung ano mangyayari when you change scenes. When you just additive scene. The physics engine sometimes pops up, sometimes doesn't. So we're gonna have to do something about that. What we're gonna do is when they enter the scene, um, just make the physics engine keep running. So let me just do that. We need a new script for this. Script physics simulator. So if you check also the mirror, they actually also tell you to do this. You need to have a physics simulator. And then on awake, uh, physics, physics, I think, and physics 2D. Physics scene. And then physics scene 2D. So this depend. Technically, I just do this one, but in case you have a 2D and 3D, both, uh, simulate physics, false. We'll simulate physics 2D, false. On awake, we do physics scene is equal to, what is this? Physics. Let me try to, nope, not that one. Let me try to get that code. Nope. In here. The short code lang. Oh, yes, that's physics. Ah, sabi ko nga ba? This tagging object dot scene dot get physics scene. And also physics scene to equal to this tagging object dot scene dot get physics scene to be. Then simulate physics is equal to uh physics scene is valid and physics scene physics, I don't know, just physics. Physics dot default physics scene. Oh, sorry. Uh, physics scene is not equal to default. And similar with physics 2D, is simulate physics 2D equal to physics 2D scene is valid and physics scene 2D is not equal to physics 2D dot default physics scene. Fixed update. If simulate physics physics scene dot simulate time dot fixed delta time. If simulate physics 2D physics scene 2D dot simulate time dot fixed delta time. And we only want to do this if the network server is active. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we just need this lang. Just to simulate the physics. It's a requirement. If you do not add this, all physics won't work on the scene. Weird, no? Uh, Unity. So online, you just add a physics simulator and then just put in the physics simulator. You can name it anything. Let's do that also on the second one, just so malagay na siya. Physics simulator. Then physics simulator. Okay. Host, join, ready, start. Uh, where are we at? This is not. Are we in? That's. Ah, no, hindi nag-off to. Floor, network identity. Network identity. What am I missing here? Scene, online scene. Ball. Wait lang. Nag-error kasi dito eh. Asset ID. Yeah. Hold on. Persistence online. This should be off though. Uh-huh. Nga ba yan? Additive. True. Wait lang. Let me double check. Demo network. New manager. Oh, new start server. Get all the scenes. And then starting from 3 until to scene building setting. Everything loaded. So that's fine. On scene. On server scene changed. What's that? On server scene changed. On server, not room server. On server over. On server scene change. My bad. It should be this. Don't forget to base.on room server. Ah, probably dahil dito. Kaya nasira. I think itanggal ko to dito. Itanggal ko rin to. But anyway, see? Yung pasting. Okay. Host. Join. Ready. Start. Nope. We are still getting an error. Consistency. Okay, hold on. Transition. Something loaded. Is in transition. Start quality. Unloaded. Loaded. What am I missing here? Start quality. False. Replace. Con. Game player. Replace keep authority. Mm-hmm. No. In transition. Is in transition is false. And then each time I do this, is in transition, let's go to true. Mode, client, mode, unload sync. Hmm. Substantiate. Sorry, hold on. Hierarchy gets out of sync. Uh the no the build settings. The build settings of this, I think we probably changed it. Join, ready, start. Oh, where are we at? Build settings, sample room persistent. Sample room persistent. It's correct. Hmm. Hold on. No, there's a problem also. Supposedly, these objects on the other scenes should be hidden. Network identity. So that means I am missing something. Loading scene async is done. Let me just double check. Loading scene async is not yet done. And it's not equal to null. Yield return null. Network identity zoning false. Is position false on room change. Several subscenes. This is happening. Subscene and see if true. Where's our add player? Gone. Move to game object. Move object to scene. Game object. Scene manager gets seen by path. First scene to load. First scene to load. Load additive to enable this. True. Find objects of type. Subscene loaded. Yield return null. Damn. This was working. Connection. Additive. Client only. It's just Room scene. Network room manager. Room scene. Persistent scene. Wall prefab. We don't need that. Online scene is the first scene to load. Everything's correct. Unless something's wrong with the additive. Network identity. Network identity. Ooh. Hold on. I may be missing. On room starts server. Mm-hmm. Have everything there. On server scene changed. On server scene changed. I've seen execute the gameplay. They're below scene. That's happening. I've seen operations on unload. Load. Using name. Client only. Using transition. On time scene change. Load scene missing. These are all fine. Replace player. Start calling in. Add play. Game scene. Oh, why different? This is simulated network identity. Tama siya, nasa online scene. However, everything else should be off. Right there. Sample room. No. Yeah, I feel like something's wrong here. That's one asset. I think that's out of sync. Huh. That sucks. That really sucks. Resistant. Everything is a network identity. Doesn't reload here. Okay, sige. I'll go back to you guys with that one, but we'll make a quick one, a quick script in order for you to properly move from one scene to the other. After that, I will send to you guys the script that should be correct. Supposedly tama na to eh, pero I'm guessing I'm missing something. But I'll go create a script first, for in order for you to change from one scene to another. Then I'll just send to you guys the right the right script for that. Anyway, let's say for our online scene, we want a teleporter or a collider, a trigger. When the player enters the trigger, he will move to another scene. So in order for us to do that, let's go create our object here. This is our teleport trigger. A box collider 2D. Make sure, oops, make sure that we do is trigger. Then let's go create that function, that script. Um, teleport play. And this one, for our teleport player, to be a network behavior. We need to send a data through the server. So first we need to know what scene to go to. So we have a scene, um, serialized field, and then string scene to teleport to. We could also have like a string game object, ah, um, starting position. Could have this as well. Okay, then the on trigger enter to B. If it is not the server, wait. We only want this to work for the server. Then if collision, the get component has the player controller, the player controller who activated it. Then we do the coroutine. So this coroutine, this is how we send the player to another uh, scene. So it would be a server callback. So only a server can run this. Uh, I enumerator and player, and then is the player. So you have a network identity, player, network identity. If if player object, oops, if player object is equal to null, yield return, yield break. Yield break is parang your return down. We're gonna stop it right there. Okay. Then if if player object that try get component network identity. So we're trying to get the network identity. So we're trying to get it. This will be placed here. Yeah, out network identity. If it doesn't get it, we just yield break. But if it does get it, it will fill this one here. So uh, network connection to client con is equal to network identity dot connection to client. If con again is null, you break. Then we send the message, the scene message, scene name is equal to scene. Ah, we have to unload first. This dot game object dot scene dot path. We're trying to unload the scene first. Scene operation is equal to scene operation dot unload additive. And custom handling. Super true. Then network server not remove player for connection on remove player options that keep active. You want to keep active. You want to keep the connection active, friend. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna show you why we need this. But first, we need to move the player. Scene manager dot move game object to scene name. Oh, my bad. Uh, the player object to scene manager dot get scene path scene to teleport to. Then con dot send new scene message. We're gonna now move him to another scene. Scene to teleport to. Scene operation is equal to load additive. Custom handling true. We wait for a bit. You wait for end frame. And then network server not add player for connection. Player object. And then because Unreal is kind of sorry, Unity, what Mirror does is when you disconnect a player, they change its rigid body into kinematic. But since originally it's a dynamic, we need to set it back to dynamic. Get component rigid body to the body type is equal to dynamic. Okay. The reason why we need to remove the player first before moving and then adding him back. The reason why we do that is because if you try to move a player to another scene, what Unity does is its position will change. What happens if you don't remove and add the player? The position is now not synchronized anymore. So we need to remove them first and then move them to another scene. And then before you add them, this is where you um, move player object to a position. So move player to object to position and then add player. So start coroutine, then player. Collision dot game object. Start coroutine. What's happening there? I enumerator. Okay. So this one, so we won't touch the starting position. This one needs network identity. Scene to teleport to, in this case, the other scene. So yun muna. So right now, player object is in online scene, but if I move to the collider, right now player one is now in online scene one. So what I need to fix though is the wall and the floor not disabling its sprite render. But I will deal with that next time. Okay, so that's what's happening. So our collider's here. The moment I touch the collider, it has now moved me to another scene. And my movement should still be the same. Okay. So yeah, something's up lang with with my loading and unloading. I may have not I may have done something wrong in the loading and unloading. Lines only, line only. Load sync, load on time. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to check all of this out again. But yeah. Questions or clarification on what just happened? Yeah, it's fine. Don't add this. Others? Any questions? So it's a lot. It's a lot to do, no? Just so to change scenes, but it's a pretty strong um set of functions. Um, uh-huh. On object type, animal tree, scene manager, moving object to scene, consent. No, no questions. Sige. If there are no questions, we can go back to this again next week. I should have to find what's wrong with this. I was working naman a while ago. But anyway, for now, no homework muna. Next week, you'll have the homework. The homework probably you have to implement your own um changing scenes. So where will you use this? Maybe you want to have a scene where um from like a level you go to like a shop, maybe. If not shop, maybe you want a scene where each time a level finishes, uh you teleport to another scene before the next level starts. Something like that. Right? Pero di pa naman not this not it's not June naman next week. I'll be posting that one next week. It'll probably be June next week. Okay? So yeah, medyo marami to, but we'll get back to it again next week. I'll find a fix. And yeah, If you have any no, if you don't have any questions, then you can always message me or message in the group and I'll answer naman. Okay? Yeah, there's no questions. That's it for today. You guys can go ahead and enjoy your night and stay safe, everyone. Bye bye. You too, you too.